ICS4U. This lesson is on arrays. Really important structure that's used to group variables that are all of the same type together. And arrays have been around for a really long time in Java, in the C language, and in Python we use lists. There are other ways of doing it. Arrays in Java aren't quite as flexible as lists, but they're still a really important thing. So I've already created a project called arrays, and we'll see how to create an array. All of the elements in the array have to be of the same type, whether it be an array of integers, an array of strings. Strings are an object, and yes, you can have an array of objects. So let's see how we might do that. Here's method number one. Method number one to create an array. You're going to say what type of, what the content is of each individual item in the array. So in this case, it'll be integers. I'll say we're going to call it my array with square braces to just state that, well, it's not a variable, it's an array of, it's a collection of variables. And on the right side of the equal sign, we have to say new int and then how many values we want in the array. Now, the number of values is static. Once we say that we want 10 values, it's not very easy to grow or shrink that. There are other structures in Java that allow you to grow and shrink, just like lists did in Python, but not arrays. They're called vectors, and there may be some other ones as well. There's also something called an array list that we may be looking at instead of vectors. I think array lists might be easier to use. Okay, so that's one way to do it. How about, and now if we want to see how to initialize the values, we can do something like this, my array square brace 0, because we can start counting at 0. I'll store a -1 in there. What about my array at location 1, and I'll make that 37. Okay. How about, what if we tried my array at location 11 and set it to 22? What would happen if we ran this? So as you know, if there's 10 locations in the array, that's going to give us indices 0 through 9. So we can access 0 through 9. We're getting an index out of bounds error. Index 11 is out of bounds because it only goes from 0 to 9. That's 10 values. So we change that back. If we change it to 9 and try running it again, we shouldn't get any errors. Now we won't see any input because we didn't print anything. But what if we did this? So for int I equals 0, I is less than my array dot length, and the length does not have brackets after it. It's just dot length. That's a method of arrays. So arrays are objects in I++. I think I mentioned this before, but when you have a for loop or a while loop or even a main method, and you only have one line inside of the body, you can avoid the curly braces. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have system.out.println my array square brace I without any curly brackets, and that means there's only one line inside of the for loop, and that's perfectly legal in Java. So when I run this now, it should show all the values in the array, and you can see that Java is nice enough to put zeros in all the locations that we didn't initialize. So we only initialized location 0, location 1, and location 9. All the other values are 0. It's an important point to know. How about method 2 to create an array? So there's another way of creating an array. Method 2 of creating an array, and it's like this. Int my array 2, I'll call it. The left side of the equal sign is the same. Everything is new on the right side, except here we're going to put empty square braces, and we're going to put some curly braces now, and the curly braces will hold all the values. And don't forget there's a semicolon after that. So the structure, I still forget exactly how. I have to look this up, and it's okay if you have to look it up. If you're working with several different languages, you're not gonna remember everything. But as long as you know that there is a way to define all of the values and initialize them, so define the array and initialize all the values in one line. Okay, how about now, so we've already seen how to print all the values out. What if I took this for loop, cut it and put it underneath method 2, and I showed my array followed by some empty quotes. Maybe I'll put a colon there. And then I'll put my array 2 with I. Are they the same length? No. So we're going to have an error. We're going to have an issue, right? You can't do this because the first one is of length 10. The second one is only of length 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we would get an error if we tried to do this. The error should say something about out of bounds. It says index 5 is out of bounds for my array 2 for length 5. Okay, so we can't share unless we added more values here. So why don't we just do that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we have 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if we were to build this, these arrays are of the same length. So it's able to show on the left side, on the left column is the content of my array, and on the right side is my array 2. Here's another way of doing this. So you can put \t. This is an escape sequence for tab, and it should show it in a neater way, maybe, I'm thinking. Yeah, it's a bit neater. It's not perfect, but it does line everything up. So tab is a good way of showing 2 columns in a very, very easy way, just with system dot, in a very primitive way, just with print line. So that's arrays. Everything that you know about for loops and while loops and counters from grade 11 now ties in with arrays. We might be looking at 2-dimensional arrays later on, but that's it for now.